You know that unsettled feeling that you can't quite shake? The sense that what used to fit seems just off? Most of us try to brush this sensation aside. But I would ask you today, what if that feeling, that sensation, that restlessness is the whisper of a bigger life change that's waiting for you? In this video, I'm going to help you get started on deciding whether now is the right time to make this change in your life. So when we feel this sensation that something needs to change, but we're not sure if we want to change it right now or if we should change it right now, usually there's not a clear answer to that. I mean, sometimes you get laid off from a job and there's your clear answer. You know, you got to do something different. So that's like a hard stop, and now we got to figure out what's next. A lot of times there's just this restless feeling. I mean, maybe your job's going okay, your relationships are okay, your family is okay, and everything's basically okay, but you're feeling like this isn't it, that there's more out there for you, but you're not sure what to do about it. Or maybe you do have a sensation of what you'd like to do next, but you're not sure if this is the right time. Unfortunately, as humans, we're wired to second guess ourselves with this kind of thing all the time, and to label our discomfort as a weakness, and oftentimes just to keep pushing harder in the same direction. The real insight that I've learned after years of reflecting on my own life and working with other people going through different types of transitions in their lives is that our deeper selves and our lives as a whole are already starting to answer that question, that there's clues to the answer already existing in our lives. It's just that there's no big sign saying go this way. I mean, that would be nice if there was, but there is never that big sign. There's never that certainty. There's just these little clues and the little whisper of the voice inside of you saying, how about this? The very signs that you may have been dismissing are actually a kind of compass. They're how your inner self is saying, maybe you're done here and it's time to move on. Or maybe you need to shift in this part of your life. And this doesn't mean that we have to burn everything down and we have to make this gigantic change instantly. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that the shift has already started. It's already underway. I think that's one of the hardest things to realize. When I've been going through transitions like this, it's hard to realize that this restlessness, this sensation that something needs to change, is a sign that things are already changing. They're already underway. We think we can just like bury this or put it under the rug or tell ourselves to, be fine and everything's fine. But actually the change is already happening. Our lives already know where we need to go next. So I'm going to give you some signs you can look for that the change is already underway, or that this is the time to be starting to investigate a possible change in your life. So sign number one is that you're bored where you are. Boredom is a huge signal that your life is no longer challenging you. Your life is no longer helping you to grow. It's no longer helping you to fulfill your potential. It's just going along and it's boring. That is a whisper that it's time for growth. And when we feel bored, it's easy to think there's just something wrong with us. We're not interesting enough, or we haven't put enough stuff and activities in our lives so that we don't feel bored. And often then we go try to distract ourselves with something else. And that may work for a little while, but eventually we're going to come back to this same place. So we tell ourselves that we, should be grateful. But boredom typically isn't ingratitude. It's usually information. Psychologists have actually found that boredom is one of our built-in signals that it's time to grow. It's one of the signals in that our lives give us that it's time for more growth. One study described boredom as like an internal alarm, nudging us to look for new challenges because the old things aren't challenging us anymore. Another study in the journal Motivation and Emotion showed that boredom motivates exploration. So that restless, itchy feeling that you may be having is your brain's way of saying this doesn't fit anymore and it's time to seek out something new. So this isn't just woo-woo. This is scientifically shown that if you are sensing boredom with the life you have right now, that is a definite signal that your life is giving you, that it's time to push for more personal growth in some realm of your life. So if you've been feeling dull or bored with things that used to light you up, or that at least used to keep you challenged, don't dismiss that as some sort of personal failure, because it's not. It's usually your deeper self quietly telling you that it's time to move into a new chapter. So if you're not sure if boredom is showing up in your life right now, here's a couple of questions you can ask yourself that'll help you answer that question. The first one is, where am I going through the same motions? Doing the thing, but feeling empty while I'm doing it. You're just on autopilot and you're not getting any joy from this. You're not feeling any challenge. You're not feeling engaged. That's one sign. Another question you can ask yourself, do I catch myself daydreaming about being somewhere else or doing something else, even if it doesn't really make sense on paper right now? And the third question you can ask yourself is there a part of my life that used to feel fun or joyful or exciting, but that now feels more like an obligation than joy? If you answered yes, or if any of those questions led you to thinking, you know what, I am bored in some area of my life, it doesn't automatically mean you should blow everything up. Don't go quit your job tomorrow, please. It just means that your deeper self is asking for your attention. And that's all you have to do right now is pay attention. Tune in, listen. So you've heard why boredom can be one of these inner alarms that now is the time for change. The next sign is a little quieter than that, but it's just as important. The next sign is restlessness that will not let you settle. Okay, so we can all feel restless at different times in our lives. The restlessness I'm talking about is the kind that won't go away. It's always there under the surface. It's like this jittery feeling or this kind of nervous feeling where you can't really get comfortable in the life you have anymore. Maybe you sit down to relax, but your mind keeps circling around. Maybe you're having trouble falling asleep at night because your mind is so busy. Maybe you're trying to show up for your usual routines, but something inside isn't letting you. It all seems stupid anymore, or boring, or just something you're no longer interested in. Maybe you start distracting yourself with a bunch of other things. You're on the phone, or you're playing video games, or you're finding something else to keep yourself busy so you don't have to hear this inner voice saying, we're restless here, something's not right. Psychologists describe restlessness as a state of agitation when what you're doing no longer lines up with what you need. Studies in adult development have shown that this exact sort of sense of unease shows up during natural life transitions. It's a signal that you're already shifting underneath the surface, even if you don't have words for it yet. So this restlessness I'm talking about, if it's consistent and it's always kind of there, or it's frequently kind of there, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Most likely it means that your life is already telling you that it's time for a change. You can see it as your system's way of saying, this life doesn't quite fit anymore, and you're being nudged into something new. So if you're not sure if this is affecting you right now, here's a couple of questions you can ask yourself to see if this sign might be showing up. The first one is, do I find myself fidgeting, pacing, or scrolling because I can't sit still in my own skin? The second one is, have I been chasing distractions? Not because I necessarily care about these distractions or feel really drawn to them, but because just staying put in what I'm doing feels unbearable right now. And the last question is, do I sense an itch or a longing for something else, even if I'm not sure what that something is? Take 5 minutes tonight to answer those questions and see what you find. If any of those land for you, it means that you're in motion. You're already shifting toward the next chapter. And that's good. That's okay. Don't let it frighten you, because it can feel frightening. Just let it sit and let that be okay. So maybe you're not bored and maybe you're not restless, but there may be something else that's signaling it's time for a change. The third sign is a little sneakier because it shows up in your connections. Let's talk about that. So you might want to ask yourself if you've noticed that you're stepping back from people or routines that used to feel good or used to feel right in your life. So maybe you're skipping the social events that you used to enjoy, or you're not picking up the phone as often to call those people that you used to talk to frequently, or you're pulling back from habits that once felt like second nature but now feel kind of useless. And you may think, you know what, I'm just not being a good person, or I'm not being a good friend. But here's the thing. Psychologists actually talk about this, and it's fascinating. They talk about this as role transition. So if you're ready to make a change right now, you're ready to pivot in some area of your life, your identity is asking for a shift. So maybe up until now, let's take a really simple example and talk about your job or your occupation, though this can affect any part of your life. So keep that in mind. But we're just going to give an example that's really simple. Let's say that you have been a computer programmer. That has been your job. That is your role. When you think of your role in your job, it's computer programmer. But as your identity shifts, the roles and routines that once felt right to you can start to feel tight or off, or like shoes that don't fit anymore. So maybe you're feeling like where you used to really enjoy computer programming, now it's boring to you. I mean, you're going to work thinking, oh, I got to go do this again. And it's not holding the excitement that it once did. And the job that when you got it, you felt really lucky to have gotten it, now feels like it's just sending you off into a future that looks really uninspiring. And maybe you have ideas for some other things that you want to go into, whatever that other thing may be. Maybe you're thinking you want to start your own business. If that kind of disinterest in the role you've had and new interest into a potential role you could grow into is occurring to you, then it probably already means that you're starting an identity shift. Research on adult development shows that this kind of quiet withdrawal from the role you've held often happens before a transition. It's the way that we naturally make space for what's coming next. So instead of seeing this as a disconnection, which it kind of is, it's kind of like you're disconnecting from who you were in this older life, in the life you're in now. You can see it as your deeper self, gently clearing the way for you to step into your next chapter or your next identity. So if you're not sure whether this applies to you, here's some questions you can ask yourself when you're journaling tonight. Am I avoiding people or routines that used to feel comfortable but now leave me drained? Second question, do I feel out of sync with conversations, traditions, or expectations that I once fit into? If we continue our example of our computer programmer, maybe this person no longer feels excited by the conversations around the water cooler with their colleagues. It all just seems like the same old, and they're bored. And they're more interested in talking to people who are starting their own businesses. That could be a signal. Last question, am I craving more quiet and more space because something inside me is shifting? And this is a really subtle sensation. You're just like, I really don't want to go to this gathering. I really don't want to go to this social event because I want to sit with this new idea. That's more exciting to me. So if you answered yes to any of these, or if any of these seem to hit a nerve for you, take it as confirmation that something inside of you is already changing. It's already underway. And this doesn't mean that you failed in the current life you're in. It's just your way of making space for what's next. You're basically loosening old patterns so that the new ones have room to fit into your life. So maybe you're recognizing yourself in one of these three signs. And there are others that I could talk about, and I will in future videos. But these are some of the most common. Here's the part I really want you to hear in this video. You don't have to have the whole plan laid out right now. You don't have to know every single step before you start making a change. A lot of us get afraid when we realize that, yeah, there's always already something going on here, because all of a sudden it feels like a runaway train that we can't pull back. Try not to see it that way. Try to just relax. It's a scary place to be, I know, because I've been there several times. But if your inner self is pulling you, your life is pulling you toward a new direction, it's going to feel a little frightening, because what we're leaving behind is what we're used to and what is familiar to us. And what we're looking at is completely unknown to us at this time. So it can feel frightening. So our natural survival tendencies make us pull back and make us want to close that down and maybe not even look that direction, even while part of us is fascinated with what this new part of our lives could be. So try not to feel like the instant you see that some of these changes are already underway, try not to feel that you have to instantly do something about it. You don't have to make a huge decision. You don't have to upset everything right now. On the other hand, neither do you want to feel like you should do nothing, because most of us kind of wait for that 5-year plan to drop out of the sky before we feel brave enough to take a step toward this new life. And when that doesn't happen, when it's not like all laid out for us exactly what we're supposed to do, and it's guaranteed to be everything we want it to be, if we don't get that, then we feel hesitant to do anything. The truth is the shift has already started, but you also have to start taking a step toward it. But all you have to take is a little step. And that little step is simply to start noticing. Noticing more what your life is trying to tell you, the signals that it's sending you, the signals you're sensing intuitively. And then all you have to do is give yourself permission to experiment. The system I've set up here at Next Story Project does not require you to make drastic changes. It allows you to experiment with your life in a very safe, very gentle, very small step kind of way, so that you're not feeling overwhelmed or frightened by what the next step could hold. So this week, here's what I'd love you to do, if any of this speaks to you, is to choose one small pocket of time in your busy life. 10 or 15 minutes will do it. And use it to just notice what feels off. Really helps if you have a journal for this. Write down the places where you felt bored, restless, or like you're disconnecting from what has before this sustained you. And then don't judge it, don't fix it, you don't have to do any of that yet. Just capture it in black and white. A few sentences or even an audio file spoken into your phone, just so you can start to track this. I want you to pretend that you're a scientist and you're right now just collecting data. That's all you're doing. You're collecting data about what your life is telling you. That simple act of naming what's shifting, of getting it down in writing, is the first step, because once you see it right in front of you, it's harder to dismiss it. It's harder to just shove it under the rug. And you can start to recognize it for what it is, and it can look a lot less frightening to you. Because what it really is a signal pointing to what's next for you. If you'd like some help with this, I have a free guide, the Signals Journal, 7 Clues Your Life is Asking for a Change. It walks you through some of the most common signals that a shift is already underway in your life. And it has quick reflection prompts to help you make sense of these signals. That's completely free. You can find it at the link below. We'll keep unpacking these shifts together one step at a time on this channel. And don't worry, change can be frightening, but it can also be exciting. Thanks for being here. And if you found value in this video, please do like and subscribe. And share it with a friend if you think it might help them. And remember, your life's plotting something, so you might as well start eavesdropping. I'll see you next time.